So the canal anyway, it's still running along. It's buried beneath brambles. There's a little bend here that reveals the old cobbles for the horses, and the stones are exposed of the old canal. This is Elton and Walshire Brook. They drain underneath here, and this is the canal branch that loop round the back of the mills, which I spoke about earlier. Goes around the back of Daisyfield and the Egyptian mills. Old Hall Farm is a bit further along, but Florence Nightingale Infectious Diseases Hospital on the brow of the hill just behind Daisyfield water system, canal system, which is flooded today. It's still there, and it was there years early 1800s, late 1700s, I'm not sure. The thing is, with infectious diseases, there's the coronavirus. So I thought I'd mention infectious diseases because it's always been, it's involved with water, it's involved with people, it's involved with history. So we're all panicking about coronaviruses these days because of the media. That just proves that these diseases and things like that still exist. But in 1381, it's estimated around 50%, that's everybody in Europe, 50% of the population died from the Black Death. It was called the Black Death because the skin turned a colour of black underneath. You could see it underneath the skin. Anyway, you can actually see petrified bodies that is kept for some reason in museums, but there you go. The Black Death actually killed 50% of the population, and we can't believe that things like coronavirus, it's possible that these things can occur, but they've been around for a long, long time. So there you go. Hope that stops people being quite as frightened as we should be, to be honest. It's not really worth worrying about. So, Daisyfield Docks. So, and as I said, it's flooded. Right now we're in the middle of a storm. We've had two in the UK in the last week. It's the first 2 weeks of February 2020. Get a look at the Manchester, Bury and Bolton Company Canal Reservoir. Well, you can see the dam on the horizon. Withins Reservoir is also up on that horizon. There's canals and goits that lead down from there, and a small reservoir seems to have been sited just to the other side of the canal, the opposite side to the railway. I'd say the right hand side as we walk towards Radcliffe. The canal feeder reservoir. There's also air shafts to our left. You'll see bumps in the ground that look like things that have been buried. They're part of mines. I thought they were an old burial mound, but it's actually old air shafts. So half of the ground around here is actually missing, I'm sure of it. So it's probably hollow under most of Lancashire. And that's not a joke. I'm not actually joking. But anyway, the canal comes quite close to the railways at Withins Reservoir and Goit, and Withins Road crosses Withins Bridge, which goes over the L and YR Company's railway, which is the LYR Company's canal. No, because the company changes its name when it buys out the Leeds and Manchester Company's rail system, which isn't very successful, but I'm sure they own the canal. So they've started a rail system which leads into Manchester, and the LYR starts to form, and they buy into their system. So they buy some lines off them, which we were about to see hook up and used to go right through Radcliffe and round what's called the Bury Circular, I think it was. So the investment, which became the L&Y Railway Company, grew to one of the biggest and most pioneering companies in British history. Soon we'll see outward wood rail line. That goes to Salford. It's part of the Liverpool-Bolton line from Daisy-field. That interconnects once again here, so it's serviced all the local mills. So the canal meets with the railway and the road crosses over, and we also see a gate that supplies pretty much half of Radcliffe. So it's going to be an interesting little section. Okay, as I say, there's air shafts on our left towards Radcliffe. Within's reservoir, Guyt Channel, lots of mines for coals, there's Ham Farm. We saw Daisyfield docks. As I said, there's 1 mile of canal. So I'm explaining that it's basically time to introduce trains, but I think we've picked up on that now. A company that owned this canal bought a small section of train line, as we know, and they owned the Rochdale Canal at that time, and Leeds Manchester company. Old Hall Farm is the farm we can see. Just behind that is the Liverpool-Bolton Bury line, which links along this way. Within's Guyt is supplying lots of farms and mills, and also a canal system is evident. Within's house is just over the roadway there. Got like a football pitch attached to it now, a basketball court. It doesn't look very old, but it actually is really old building. On into feeding half of Radcliffe's mills, as I said, from the Guyt. Whittaker's Bridge, there's the shaft for air. So a long tunnel or mine must be under the canal. Then there's an iron bridge. So, I'll show you. So there's the reservoir on the hill, also the small lake. That's situated between Crow Trees Farm and the old Within's Mill, which is just on the other side of that wall, probably part of this wall. This is a horse bridge, so the horse can take boats in the other direction on the other side of the canal for 1 mile, then cross over the other bridge and return here, and that horse will probably be kept at the local farm. There'll be another farm at each bridge, and the horses will just go round and round in their section all day long, day in day out, until other forms of power come along. Within's Road crosses the track and the canal, the train track. The train's passed under here, that's the Colne-Accrington line, and it goes into Radcliffe via its western fork. Now it's just a single line. Like, it used to have the western fork of Radcliffe was part of the Bury Circular Railway. The dye works and then iron works was also along here. So the old wall's purpose, and it was probably part of the mill, as I say. M11 miles, doesn't really say which direction. So motion, that's the thing, and understanding motion. So just peep over this other little wall, and Within's Guyt. That travels beneath the canal from there, over there, and there's filter beds, and that Guyt splits into many different channels, as I've said before. this point we're going to go straight into the second law that Newton understood with his laws of motion. As I say, we're trying to introduce science as we move forward with time. We're introducing the trains today. We're going to discuss a lot more about the trains and also about the technology now, how each mill was powered, because each mill was powered by different types of bespoke machinery. So each mill had its own bespoke, built on-site engine to fit that mill and power that mill with as much horsepower as it needed. As we know, some of them had up to 20,000 looms running, so they needed some serious power. So, second law, Newton's second law, involves momentum. Newton's second law involves momentum. An object's mass multiplied by its velocity is the change in momentum. An object's mass multiplied by its velocity is the change in momentum. Newton's second law involves momentum, an object's mass multiplied by its velocity. The law states that the change in momentum is proportional to the force exerted on it. So a force doubled with its power will accelerate an object twice as much. The same force applied to an object with twice the mass will produce only half the acceleration. The second law is often summarized as a simple equation. A is equal to F over m, in which the acceleration A is equal to the force F and m is the mass of the object. So acceleration is equal to the force divided by the mass of the object. Almost the opposite, so E equals mc squared. Anyway, small mass, small force.